So you've gone to Foam Armory, you've gotten some foam chainmail, and you start putting it together, and you got these panels that you can't quite splice together, or you don't know how to. So I'm going to show you today how to create a splice between two pieces so that you can create longer segments just like that. The coif tutorial will be coming up shortly, but in the meantime, you're going to need some tools on being able to splice the panels together. So I'm going to show you how to splice, and then I'm going to show you 3 different ways to use that splice and how to make things work for a lot of your chainmail projects. One of the biggest questions I get asked is, we've only got these links a certain length, and how do I make something that is longer? Well, in one direction, going up along this way, to make it longer, obviously, all you have to do is add another row of links. But trying to get the length so that you splice, say, this one into this one can be a bit of an awkward thing to do, but it's not that necessarily that hard. So let's take a look at this guy. So what I've done is I've taken those links that you saw on the previous screen, and I've made it so that one is offset from the other every second row. Then let's just go and line everything up, and I will show you kind of what it looks like when the splice is open. Again, this is just so you get a better visual of what's going on. So what you saw in the previous one was these two pieces put together, and this row here fits into these holes here, and this specific link right there overlaps this link here. Now you end up having like a little double. What you can do, there's 2 options that you have here. One is that you can have sort of a double link show up in that one spot. You can't really see it when you put, like, say, a costume or something together. But if you really don't want to have that double link, it's really simple, is that you only loop this guy through one of the links, and then you push the other link behind. So you end up having this sort of like little tab. If you've ever seen any cross stitch done by like your grandmother or wife, or, you know, if there are some guys that do cross stitch as well, is that you'll notice the back can be kind of messy, but the front looks incredibly awesome. So you end up having this sort of little flippy do on the back. And here, actually, I'll show you a little picture of what the flippy do looks like, and basically how it all kind of integrates into what's going on. So you can hide it and you cannot hide it depending on what you want. First thing that I would do with a lot of these is that you got to start with the initial hookup. And the initial hookup, I usually do an overlap of 2 or 3. In this example, we're going to just do 3. And you don't have to do 3. I find that it makes it fairly strong. But basically what we have here is that you're just going to offset one link set to the other. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to get some of this stuff, and we're going to move it out of the way, if it will let me. There we go. 2 different colors just so that you can visualize what is happening here. So you've got this one, and we want to extend this out further along this direction. So let's zoom in. What you do is you take this next one, and that when you feed it in is that you start stitching it in, but you overlap it. So you can take this guy, and again, I said before, is that you push this loop in behind the loop that's already there, then stitch this. And the reason for that is that it allows this loop to show up. If we don't do that, let's just move this over. If we have them butt against each other, you end up having a missing link here. And that's the whole purpose of overlapping 2, is right there, just to make sure that we get this last link in here. Okay. Now what we have is, 3 pieces joined together in a longer segment. So let's get this other guy, this other black guy in here, and we will place him in on an offset as well. But here's the offset, is he doesn't come in all the way there. He's going to be right there. So we're just going to tuck him in so that he only adds to that one section. And then we have, again, one of those little overlaps here. Let's carry this on, is that we grab this guy and we bring him in so that he is overlap it. So we're knitting this piece in along that one line. And you can notice that there's the offset. So that way this one here picks up both this line and this line and joins them together. So we come here, we overlap, and we get that look. But this is how the long splice works. And in the end, once you've done everything, this is what it looks like right here. Okay, now that we have the initial concept, what we're going to do is carry on and show you a couple different methods on how to put things together. I showed you how to do it raw, right from a pattern, and to add the links one by one. But what happens when you have two panels that you want to join together and you're not sure exactly how to do it? Well, there's two different methods. Let me show you. Let's look at some examples of how to put this this kind of staggered stitch or link together. One scenario is that you've created a panel and you just make sure that you have every second one has 3 overlapping. You don't have to, like when I showed you how to do this, is do the entire length from one side all the way to the other. You can actually just come in and splice. So you can make one panel, and maybe you don't know exactly how long you want to make it. You're not sure exactly how long this needs to be. So what we can do here in this case is that we just start adding to these pieces as they are. So we start at the second row, and we're going to come in here and we're going to pick up right where this last one came in. And pull this through. And we'll get him linked in. So there we have it. We've got that first one hooked onto the first row, or the first extension piece here. Now you can see that this one guy here is going to be the one that's just the extra flip, but this is where the next stitch happens. And we bring him in. And it's very important that you make sure you've got these things lined up. I've done this a few times, and when I finish off, I end up looking at this and going, hey, wait a minute, this guy is over here. And all that tells me is that I took this first link and unfortunately hooked it into this little flip. Remember, we always have to have that little flippy guy left over. So now we've got that. Let's say that we obviously want to continue on with this piece here, and then we're going to carry on. And we've hooked that. So now we've extended this bottom row all the way along with this piece. We've added that other piece in there to the extension. And bring this back and we'll carry this piece through. Let's heat this up and lay it flat so that we can see things proper. There we go. So now you can see how everything has flipped through. The one thing that we have here though, and this is a little mistake on my part, is this guy still, and this is one of those things where it is fairly flexible. I can see that this guy needed to actually come inside there. There we go. So now we have that double, but everything is in line and working. We're going to pull this guy through this area, through that first loop, and then carry on down the line. And this is joining the other gray section in. So this is one way you can do it, is that you have a section, you know you need to extend it, but you haven't made any panels for it. Now, I remember earlier in the video I was mentioning about having a double. Here's a double. I'll give you an example of a double. Is that you have these two here. Our choice is that we can come in and pull it out like this, and then you'll never see that back flip piece. But let's say you just want that little bit of extra strength. Is you come through both of them now and grab it and pull it through. So now the difference here that you can see is that you have a single, a double, and then we'll be going back to singles. Again, if you're building something, if you have one link along a seam or something like that that are a bunch of doubles, it might add an effect that you like, or you probably wouldn't even really see it. So it really comes down to your choice. So remember, now that we're here, we have to grab this little trailing piece, and we have to bring it through that extension. And now you take your extra piece and you bring it through that last loop along with that other hole, with that other chain, and carry on. And there you go. You can see how I've added a splice slowly but surely off of those little pieces at the very bottom here. So that's one way that you can go about doing this. Let's imagine you're in a scenario that you've got a panel made and it's already finished off nicely, and you want to join it to this panel and you're just like, oh man, what did I do? Well, this isn't that big of a deal. All we have to do is if we look at making those extra fingers. So 1, 2, 3, right? We need to cut right along here. This guy. And once we've done that, we can, you could just dice this out if you wanted to. I'm just going to hand pull it out. We have to leave this guy intact, but the next row, this one right here, these guys need to be shortened. So we're going to come in here and we're going to snip it right there. And now we can remove this. But this, in this case, because of the way it is, we need to come in and snap those guys out. So now we have that loose piece, and we can pull this out. There you go. So now we have a raw edge here that we can use to hook in our other panel. We want to join this panel onto the end of it. Again, it's finished nicely, but it's not that big of a deal. We can totally make this work. And part of that is to make sure that we have the top line. This hole, or this circle here, is going to come underneath that circle. Then we need 1, 2, 3 to go from there. So we need 4 total. 1, 2, 3, 4 to go through. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4. But the line we need to cut is the one below it, right? So we come to this guy here, and we can see that he needs to be terminated or brought here. So we snip him out. We just here, pull that loose, and then these guys can come out. So now we have 2 offset panels that will work into each other quite nicely. And you know what? You know how I said I was doing 3? I had 3 coming out, and I decided to do 4 in here. I was incorrect on that. You know, I can do 4, but then I have to do sort of a double overshoot. Basically, I have to overshoot twice, and I don't necessarily want to do that. So I'm just going to come in here. This is one of those little tiny errors that I think everybody will make at some point in time. So now we have the 2 that we want to splice together. Remember that we're going to have 2 in the center. We're going to have an overlap on this side, and we're going to have an overlap on this side. So let's lift this up. We're going to bring this specific loop underneath to match that one. Now we have to hook in that first row into here. Right? And then we go in for that where you get that overlap or that double. Now I need to come back with this gray one right here and bring him back along the same line. And finish off that double loop inside of this guy. But in the end, there you go. This is 2 panels that started out with square edges, just like this edge here, and how you can slice them and basically splice them together, not worrying about that. So we have the one way where you weave everything along in one big long panel, the one where you've got a panel with these staggers and you add the pieces as you need them, and then the final version where you have 2 panels that are butted up against each other, and you had to cut out some bits, but then you can join them up, and in the end you don't even see that. So here are some examples. This whole panel coming all the way down here, that's got 2 splices in it. You don't see it. The only splices that you see are where I do this kind of interesting little bit right along this edge for this coif. Here, actually this is a little more visible right here, along this point here. And you can see where all these little guys here are where the splices started happening. There you go. That is how to splice a couple of these panels together, these links together along the length. And one of the next tutorials that I'm going to be showing is how to make this coif and shirt and some of the other things that most people would want to make out of chainmail. Go check out foamarmory.com if you want to get some of the raw links and start building yourself. You can also find the files for this. If you have a laser cutter or a Cricut, you'll be able to cut these out yourself. And the files are on Thingiverse if you'd like. All the links for this will be down below, including some of the tools that I used in this episode. Hopefully you've enjoyed yourself, and if you've liked the video, please hit like below, leave any comments or questions you have below, and don't forget to hit the subscribe icon and also to hit the bell notifications.